to the Summer of Stories, an interview series that goes behind the brands of entrepreneurs who were the first to do it in their families, communities, and/or industries, and uncovers the stories that embolden them to get it done. I'm Gabrielle Gwyneth, a brand storyteller, and our guest today is James Virgill, a seasoned entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the business sector. Based in the Bahamas, James has founded several successful ventures, including a business efficiency consultancy, a concierge marine mechanic company, and a boat charter company. He is currently the managing director of the first and only coin logistics and distribution company in the country. Welcome, James. It is so great to have you with us.
Thanks, Gabby. Thank you for having me.
And so for those of you watching who don't know, James and I go way back, but we've known each other since we were little, which explains why James has the license of calling me Gabby. Very few people these days I allow to call me Gabby. And I actually knew him when he was Scott. To me, he was Scott. Now he's James.
Very true. Very true, yeah.
So when we were young, I remember you being I guess you were a little boy. So you were a lot wilder than me as a girl, but like you just had this strong personality. You were very enthusiastic and adventurous. And when you started your career, you were actually a pilot. So before we get into the business, take us back to what made you want to be a pilot and how that road went.
So I think I've always wanted to be a pilot. I can't actually, I like to tell people, one of my favorite shows when I was growing up was Tailspin. And I like to think that made me want to be a pilot. I just loved watching Baloo fly the Sea Duck, and that show just kind of resonated with me. I think people tell me since I was 2 years old, I've always wanted to be a pilot. So that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Wow. And did you get into like the first choice school? Was it all going the way that you wanted it to go? How was your experience?
I was lucky enough. Yes, I got into Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and that was it was my first choice. It was actually my only choice. I didn't actually apply. I got in a lot of trouble from my mom. I didn't actually apply anywhere else. When she found that out, she lost it, and then made me apply to like 2 other schools that I really had no interest in going into. That was the only school I wanted to go to. Again, they tell me since I knew what college was.
Yeah.
That was the only school I wanted to go to. So it really was a dream come true to get to that school and get in and learn to fly there.
Yeah. And then did you fly professionally afterwards? Yeah.
I did. So throughout my college experience, I actually had a few really, really good professors. One of them, her name was Margaret Clem, and she was the first teacher I ever had, first professor I ever had at university. 8 a.m. Monday morning class, awful. And it was a mandatory class, right? It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. mandatory class. Terrible.
That is such a freshman class.
Oh my gosh, it was awful. It just it was one of those FAA regulated classes, so you could have 0 skip days. There were any skip day you were allowed, I think maybe 5, and then you had to make those up before the year was out, otherwise you'd fail the class. But she actually gave me a lot of good information, and she and I became close, and she told me, she was like, James, you're not going to like airline flying. Your type of personality, I don't advise you do that. Because I always wanted to be, I wanted to fly for Delta, right? So I wanted to be a Delta airline captain. That was kind of my goal. When I was, I think 16, I was very nerdy with Flight Simulator. So we used to have Delta virtual airlines. So I'm pretty sure that's still on Google. If you look up James Virgill, Delta captain, it's there. But she told me, James, that's not kind of a fit for your personality. You should maybe look into corporate flying. And that's what I did. When I came home, I was able to build some experience for free with some charter airlines. And I really did prefer it. It was she was right. It was a completely different experience. So what I did after college, I flew private jets for a little bit, and I flew kind of like a private seaplane. So a seaplane for someone. So it's just kind of one owner of the plane, and
like a boat captain, but for a plane.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Pardon?
So you were flying for this one
So
award?
I did the seaplane, and then I flew air ambulance for a little bit. I still had dreams of going into Bahamas Air. I was kind of having a toss up of staying with corporate or versus going to airline. And speaking to the Bahamas Air managing director, the late Mr. Henry Woods, he advised me. He was like, James, you need to build up these aspects of your time, and air ambulance would be a perfect fit for that. So I went into air ambulance for a few years. It was very difficult. That is not for just anybody, I would say. I have a lot of respect for the EMTs and the nurses that were on board. We were just kind of flying a plane, but they had to deal with patients inside turbulence and all of that. And that was a different kind of flying, I would say. So those were the main professional aspects of flying that I did. It was private jets for a while, private seaplane, air ambulance, and then here and there charters. Yeah.
Okay. So then what made you leave the industry? Did you gradually become an entrepreneur? Did you quit one day and say, I'm going to start a business? How did that transition happen?
That's a good question. Actually, the first businesses I ever started were in Silver Key.
Oh, Silver Key is where we used to live.
That's actually the first businesses I ever
started.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember, there was a mango tree kind of right outside your house.
Yes.
There was one also by the washing machine area.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we would do is we would, by the tennis courts, we would climb those mango trees and shake the trees so the right would fall. Kids wash them off and stuff. And then we would set up on the two gates and sell them to cars coming in and out. And we set up good times in terms of, like, we would be there at 8 a.m. when people were kind of leaving for work.
Yeah.
We'd make sure and be there for lunchtime when you catch the strays coming in for lunch.
Yeah.
And then we would be there at 5 o'clock on the money, waiting for people to come home from work. And we were doing that to get money for fireworks and KFC. That was kind of our main.
I love this.
Reason for being a business, but those were the.
I mean, what else? You're a child, fireworks and KFC. You're set.
What else do I need it for? Exactly. That was, and when we were kind of not selling, we'd be in the pool. That was kind of.
What a summer.
Yeah. So we'd do that. We'd do mangoes. We would do, I think, car washes when we could. That wasn't very lucrative. And then we did. I think we sold like ice pops, like
cups,
basically frozen Kool-Aid in those little cups. Yeah. And it was those. So I guess I could say I've always been in that space. I love starting businesses. I find it. I don't know. It gives me a different feeling. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing businesses really that no one else has done. So no, I never kind of quit flying. It kind of just transitioned. So around 2012, 2013, I was flying air ambulance, and I wasn't really happy. It didn't give me the feeling of like corporate. So I was kind of looking for something else. I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to go back to just regular charter. So I wasn't really sure. And a friend of mine, actually during a period, my aunt actually passed, and I met up with kind of like my adopted mom. She knew me my entire life. She, and we were just having lunch, a catch up. I hadn't seen her in a few years, and I kind of told her about an idea a friend of mine and myself were kind of mulling over. We were thinking of, starting a concierge boat mechanic company. And she was like, "Oh, my youngest son's kind of interested in doing something like that. Maybe you guys should speak." And her youngest son was like a brother to me. So I called him and he was like, "Oh, absolutely. Let's chat. Let's see what happens." So during that period, I mean, he and I were kind of just having a lot of meetings and the other partners we were considering working with. And it kind of just evolved from there. And concierge marine mechanics essentially started off as like a side hustle, and then it kind of just became so much bigger that I was like, okay, I'm not really happy with flying anymore. So I think I'm going to focus kind of my energies on this. So I transitioned over right there.
Okay. So you were doing concierge marine mechanics, and then was the boat charter next, or the business efficiency consultancy?
So the business efficiency consultancy was actually before the boat charter. I did that mostly as a side business.
Okay.
My friends and I realized that, businesses, we were kind of just back from college, and we realized that businesses don't really have any idea on how their customers are feeling about them. So we approached a few businesses, and we did kind of like an undercover boss thing where we would pose as customers and kind of just record for example, one of our businesses was one of our clients was a bar/restaurant. So we would kind of give a SWOT analysis on, you've done this really well, but here's kind of your weaknesses coming in. Your staff is, certain members of your staff had an attitude, or these staff members were really good. Here's why they were good. Here's how you can improve those ones who had bad attitudes, stuff like that. And it worked pretty well. We didn't do it for very long, but the period that we did do it, it actually went really well. I was really pleased with it. And then I think flying kind of just took over more. So I didn't really have the time to do that as much. And, everyone kind of was getting settled in their careers. We were, like I said, just back from college. So that didn't last that long, but the period that it did last long, I was really proud of it. So the boat charter company was almost simultaneous with the boat mechanic company. When we started the boat mechanic company, we were really lucky to be kind of placed in Lyford Key. And Lyford Key doesn't have kind of an in-house boat company. So we almost became that pretty early on, which really helped us to gain a clientele. I think we were very lucky. That was kind of a time and place thing.
Yeah, just one sec. So for people watching who don't know what Lyford Key is or where it is, can you give a quick explanation?
So Lyford Key is a gated community in Nassau, and it is a very affluent community.
So it's like a clutch that you got that placement.
Yeah, it was pretty clutch. There are, I think, something like 400 boats in there. So it was a pretty big clientele that was not serviced as they are kind of used to and are willing to pay for. So again, that was a very lucky time and place thing, where we were in there and able to kind of service that community. So during that period, one of our partners already had a boat charter business, and obviously he was looking for clientele. So we kind of brought his boat in and created a company around it. At the same time, one of the other partners had just purchased a boat, so we kind of flagshipped it with with the original charter boat, and it just kind of went from there.
Wow. So the theme really here is like opportunity, and I was going to say need, but there wasn't necessarily a need when you were because you were flying you were doing air ambulance work while you were doing the business efficiency consultancy. So where do the ideas come from? It's not like, oh, I'm so pressed. It's more the idea that comes.
The business efficiency company, the idea came from, honestly, I think it was a show I was watching. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can't remember which show, but I think it was a show I was watching. And I just really liked the idea of that. And I kind of did a little bit of research to see if that was even a viable thing in this country. Were there any other business efficiency consultancies around here? I couldn't find any. Not to say that there wasn't any, but I couldn't find any. With regards to the boat mechanic company, I have to say that was not my idea. It was a friend of mine, Barrington's. So he actually came to me with the idea first and said, do you think we can do this? And then we were very quick to write business plans. That was kind of where we first got our thing into business. And we kind of just were like, all right, well, let's just do the numbers and see if it works. Let's write it down and put it on paper and see where it goes. And I mean, business, you never really know. You can write business plans all the live long day. You never really know if it's going to work, right? I've never seen a business plan that says a business is going to fail. So, right. So when I started showing that plan to people, they were like, these numbers are ridiculous. They're too high. This is completely wrong. Obviously, I didn't know anything about boats, so it was good that we brought in partners that did. But the model of the plan was perfect. Actually, I think the numbers were completely skewed, but the model of it really worked. So credit where credit's due. That was kind of a merge of people making the boat mechanic and the boat charter company work. With regards to my current business, We Change Up, I founded that as well. That came in college. I, of course, was a broke college student, as I'm sure a lot of people are. Yeah. And I had a lot of coins. I really did. And someone told me, hey, why don't you just take those coins to the Coinstar in Walmart? And I was like, I guess, yeah. And I poured them in. It obviously spat out all the Bahamian ones, but the American ones, it was about $88. I was like, that is way more than I thought it would be. That was good money for about a month.
Yeah. As a college student.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was so that's kind of where that idea spurred from.
So did you tuck it in your back pocket? How do you remember years later the coin thing?
I encourage everybody to write their ideas down. I think business is a lot of luck. I really do. It's also time and place. So you might have a really good idea, but it's just not the time for it. Or it might not be the place for it, or you're pitching it to the wrong person. But you never want that idea to kind of die out. It might be a really good idea. I always think of this person. There's a guy who invented pool noodles, right? If you really think about that, that's the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But
I love pool noodles.
everyone does. And I watched one of his kind of his documentary, and he was saying that he pitched this to so many people, and they laughed him out of the room. They were like, this is a stupid idea. Why would you ever? And then he finally got that right person who was like, yeah, let's try it. So if he would have just kind of put that idea away, it might have never come to fruition, or someone else might have done it.
Yeah.
So I encourage everybody to write their businesses or their business ideas down. You never know when it's going to, when it can work.
Yeah.
So with my coin business, that was kind of one of those. I shelved it essentially. I was like, every couple of years, a friend of mine, my friend Brian and I, we'd go back and look at it and be like, yeah, this is such a good idea. The Bahamas would really benefit from something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd look at it and see how much the machines are and this, and we'd be like, all right, well, still in college, don't kind of have that money yet, so put that away. And then eventually, I mean, I actually met one of my business partners through my boat mechanic business. We were sitting down having a beer, and he was like, so James, do you have any other ideas? Like, do you just want to do boat mechanics? I was like, well, I don't even really like boats that much, but
I'm a plane guy.
Yeah, I really like planes. So I pitched him the idea, and he was like, I never thought about that. Let's talk some more. And then I kind of went into my archives in my email where I've kind of emailed all the information that I've collected over the 10 years. And I started emailing him the stuff, and he was like, this is actually really good. Let's start. And then he kind of started connecting dots, and the rest is history. It took about 3 years to become the distributor of the coin machines, and they're very expensive. And then we, got them here and partnered with other businesses, and we started in 2021.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. And I know that there were trials even after you secured, your partnership. Like, so for people who aren't familiar with Bahamian coins.
Oh gosh.
They come in a variety of shapes, as all coins do, but we have one. I remember you were telling me about it's the 10-cent piece.
The 10-cent, yeah.
Yes. So can you tell us about the 10-cent piece?
Sure. So because most countries are single currency, that's kind of where those coin machines were catering towards. And during our period of kind of researching, trying to find a manufacturer, a lot of them just flat out told us absolutely not. They said, our coins are too weird to make it worth the amount needed, or we'd have to pay them like $200,000 to research this. So we finally found one that said, yeah, we can do it for this price, which was kind of in our budget. But the 10-cent coin is scalloped, right? So it's got ridges all around it. Also, our 15-cent coin is square, so it doesn't roll.
Oh, I even forgot about that.
Yeah, it's not very common, so that one wasn't as scary. I think there's only been about $7,000 of them made, of the 15-cent.
Okay.
But the 10-cent one is the most common coin.
Yeah.
Which, and at first they were saying like, well, the machine is going to just reject all of them. And I said, well,
this isn't going to work.
I was like, the business won't work then, because that is the most common coin. It's as big as a quarter, but it's a fraction of the value.
Yeah.
So people want to get rid of them. I was like, that's going to be our main. And if you see our facility now, mostly Bahamian 10 cents, right? So
really?
Yeah, so we had to do about a year and a half of working with the manufacturer to see if we can make the 10-cent work. So it was still kind of hit or miss whether this business was going to even be a thing.
Yeah.
A year and a half in, right? And yeah, it was very daunting, because a lot of times we spoke to the developers and they were like, we can't do this.
Yeah. And for again, people who aren't Bahamian and that are watching, our country is so small. There are less than 500,000. There might be at this point 500,000 Bahamians, maybe. So when James says, the distributors were saying, it's not worth our while, or you'd have to pay us so many hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's because it'd be such a bespoke product for that company to create the machines for you for the Bahamas. Even though it's a whole country, it's like, not even 1 million people. When are they ever going to need this coin size again? It's a really pretty 10-cent piece, but it's a unique one.
It's nice for collecting. Same with the 15-cent, but
yeah, the 15-cent is like a diamond.
Yeah. And also not just the size of our economy, but the fact that we have dual currency as well. So so for example, I emailed Coinstar and wanted to see if they would partner, and they were like, absolutely not. We only do American currency. Our machines are, I think, the first for that company doing dual currency in the world.
So you can put in, by dual currency, you mean you can put in a mix at one time into the machine?
One of our selling points is you don't have to sort or wrap them, right? So you can, as they come, you can just dump mixed US and Bahamian in the machines, and it will just count them.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
especially hearing that it took you like 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
that was a lot.
So what kept you going, hearing no after no at different stages? So it's like, oh, I have a yes to the idea, and then how am I going to find? No one wants to make the machines. This sucks. Or they'll make the machines, but now they're telling us we have this problem.
Yeah.
What kept you going?
So, although a no can be pretty jarring, it's not a failure, right? It kind of takes me back to that right place, right time. I knew the idea was a good idea. So we had gotten further than we'd ever gotten by that point. So hearing these no's, I thought, okay, well, maybe it just isn't the time for this. If we keep hearing no's, so be it. We'll shelve it and we'll come back to it in another 5 years or something like that when the time is right. It just so happened that during that period, the central bank was getting ready to get rid of the penny here. So their time frame, I believe, was going to start in 2020 for 2021. So they were also kind of cheering us on to get this going, which gave me a lot of inspiration in terms of, it's like, well, they're a regulator, right? So, and they want this to happen. I was like, that's kind of all the approval I need.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of just put my head forward and was like, let's do this.
Yeah. So another element to your being able to build businesses and move them forward is securing funding. And is that something that you learned on the go? How did you develop that expertise?
On the go. It's as simply as I can put it, it was on the go. I heard a lot of no's, right? It's way more no's than yeses, obviously. That kind of takes me back to it's got to be right place, right time, right person. There's so many factors that go into getting funding, and I've never done the traditional way in terms of like go to the bank or anything like that. I've been lucky enough that it kind of has been right place, right time for me with some of these businesses. And obviously We Change Up, which is the coin business, is the biggest one I've ever created. And yeah, that again was you've heard so many no's. Now you hear a yes, time to press. And again, I say, just because they say no does not mean you're a failure, right? It's just maybe not the time for that. That might not be the right person. It's very important to have the right partners in business. And I do encourage people to get partners. And if you can find the right ones who can also fund it, that takes a lot of things, a lot of complications out of it. So I got to say, it's just been from experience. It's been okay, well, maybe my approach to this person wasn't right, or maybe that person just wasn't the right person for this business I want to do. Um, yeah, that's as simply as I can put it. It just don't be afraid to. I would say don't be afraid to try. Right? Don't be afraid to ask somebody, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And a lot of people are not, they're not terrible, right? They're not going to tell you you're an idiot or something like that, right? They,
Mhm.
at least the people that I've dealt with, even when they've told me no, they've kind of steered me in a direction that helped me kind of tweak what I needed to say to the next person. So I'm
Mhm.
very grateful to a lot of people that said no, because you never know. Maybe the business would have failed with them. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I do know that they weren't the right person for that. Um, and yeah, you never have to be afraid of a no. I don't think a no means you are a failure.
Yeah, it's like, don't take it personally. There are so many other factors that you're aware of and that you're not aware of. You have no idea what could be going on. I was at a conference um, a couple of months ago. Oh, it was just last month. And the one of the keynote speakers was talking about how she was pitching something to someone, and it was years before she got a yes. And the first time she got a no, it was because the person she was pitching had gotten like her parent had gotten a cancer diagnosis, and then she got a cancer diagnosis. She didn't know any of that, the keynote speaker. But
Yeah.
it's like there are things that you have no idea that are going on, and then there are things that you could account for, like, well, maybe I didn't say this right, or like
Mhm.
my proposal wasn't clear enough.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and that's accurate. Don't be afraid to tweak it. You might have just not done it right the first time. Try it again. Um, I also just want to say that I kind of had to pull myself back a little bit when I started pitching some of the ideas that I've kind of had in my archives.
mhm.
A lot of them were like $10 million ideas, right? 20 million, 30. And I guess if you ask 10 people to give you a business idea, most of them will be like, it'll be $1 million idea, $10 million idea. But it's very rare, unless you are a business guru, that you are going to find somebody to give you $10 million. It's very rare. That is a rare thing.
Mhm.
But can you find, can you make a business that's maybe $100,000, maybe $50,000, maybe 20, right? You might not have that, but people will be a lot more inclined to kind of invest in you with numbers like that.
Mhm.
And the second thing I learned with that was it's not so much the idea that somebody's investing in, they're investing really in you. So I kind of learned to market myself a little better and produce kind of an air of confidence, because no one knows my idea better than me, right?
Mhm.
So you can ask me a million questions about We Change Up, my boat mechanic business, any of those, and I can answer them better than anyone else. So when you go to kind of pitch to somebody, or you're even just discussing business with a potential investor, portray that confidence and let them know that no one can beat you in this particular topic. So you
Mhm.
are an expert in your own idea.
Mhm.
And that's where I learned that investors were kind of more forthcoming, to kind of invest in the ideas when I kind of, portrayed the confidence and the knowledge in my own idea.
Mm. So was there a moment where you like reflected on a conversation or and thought, you know what, maybe that's what was missing, or was that feedback that you got? Because that's the level of self-awareness, basically, that what's missing is this intangible thing, confidence in my idea and portraying that confidence.
I reflected on it, actually.
Yeah.
It was when we were kind of having a general meeting with the partners um, in my coin business, And one of them said, well, James, you're an expert on the machines. So I was like, I'm not, but okay, thank you. I was like,
the people overseas, the ones
right.
that made it.
And they, my partners immediately referred to me as an expert on the coin machines, even though I'm not a technician, right? The techs know way more than I do. But I did, when I was pitching that idea, I did learn every single thing I could about the machines, right? I went out with the technicians to learn that, from the ground up. And again, it goes to saying, like, nobody can know your idea better than you. The techs have their aspect of the idea, right? They're in their kind of bubble. The investors kind of are in their bubble. Back end logistics, they're kind of in their bubble. But you, as the founder, as the kind of creator of this idea, need to have your kind of hands in all of those bubbles, or at least have knowledge of all of those bubbles, so that when somebody says, well, James, how many coins are in the facility right now, you can answer that. Or they call you an expert on the machines, or something like that. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah. And then what were the changes that you made to portray that confidence? Was it the way that you talked to yourself before the meetings, or dressed?
I don't know if it was any particular change. It was kind of everything. I didn't have just surface level knowledge, I would say. Some of the businesses I pitched, I kind of liked the idea, but if somebody asked me a question, I'd be like, let me get back to you, kind of thing. And although that's not a bad thing, you want to be able to answer questions. You want to be able to have that knowledge, because when somebody's investing, they want to know what you're talking about. And if you're in a pitch meeting and you are having trouble answering questions, there's something happening there. You might need to tweak that a little bit and kind of just get your knowledge base up a little bit to kind of work with that.
Okay. So with the multiple businesses you've started, you have We Change Up now. I feel just in this conversation, there are more businesses in your future. So yeah. Would you say that it's it might be both, but the business itself that you get really into and you want to do that business, or is it the art of business, like the meta concept of business? Because I think, just to give, I guess, some more context, you find some entrepreneurs, they do one thing really well, like they have one business or they stay in one field, like tailoring, for instance, for their whole career.
Small business owner, I think that would be.
And then there are the business owners who are like you, and they go from one, and they're not necessarily connected. We Change Up and a boat concierge company.
So I think let me answer that in two parts. What you're referring to is kind of like a small business owner, where I am a tailor, so I'm going to make a tailor company kind of thing. So that's a little different. Also, it's neither of those things for me. It's neither of them. I like to solve a problem that usually I've faced. So with the business efficiency company, I remember just, people, I had terrible experiences in restaurants, and a friend of mine owned a restaurant at the time. And I remember speaking to him about it, and he was like, what are you talking about? People love my staff. And I was like, well, there's a disconnect, right? So I kind of went into it with that. With the boat mechanic and boat charter company, I wasn't in that kind of world of boats per se, but I do remember, visiting some friends in Lyford who kind of had their own boats, and when the boat broke, they had to wait weeks for someone to come and fix it. Or, someone would fix it and it would break again. So I just remember it being, again, another bit of a disconnect between owners and service professionals. With the coin company, again, it was, I didn't think I could be the only one who had a bunch of coins at home. I'm sure, Gabby, you ask your mom, she's got coins.
A jar.
You know that. Yeah.
My dad has a thing that my brother refers to as the coin shelf.
Oh yeah, I bet. And everybody, so I spoke to, when I was kind of mulling over the idea 2017-ish, right before I pitched it to my current business partner, I remember asking, I was just like, I'm just going to ask people, not really an official survey or anything, but I'm just going to ask random people, anyone I see on the street, subway worker, anything. And I would say about 90, I asked about 500 people over the course of about a year. I asked everyone I could. Yeah.
Wow.
And I would say about 95% of them were all like, oh yeah, I have coins at home. Absolutely. I don't. And then my follow-up was, well, what do you do with them? And most of them were like, nothing. Don't do anything. They're just there. Can't be bothered to wrap them and take them to the bank. A very small percentage said, oh, I give it to my granddaughter or something, and she wraps it, and that's kind of her weekend fun when she comes to visit or something like that.
Yeah.
So I like to find a problem. I do, and it's normally a problem I face. And I had coins in Nassau as well, not just when I was in college. When I tested them out on the machine, I think I had about a half gallon of coins. When I tested them out on the machine, it was like $190 or something like that.
Oh my
God. I was like, oh, there's something here. So, and I was like, I'm never going to take this to the bank. I'm never going to wrap this. So that was kind of the problem I wanted to do. People have coins at home. They don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
They can't be bothered to take them to the bank. So let's make it easier solution for them.
Yeah. So what has the reception been like? I mean, you just did, there's a clear need. The central bank was behind you, but now that you're a few years in, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm really happy with the business. The reception of the machines has been really great. I actually, again, do that kind of undercover thing. I pose as a technician sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope they've never seen like the commercial we did where I'm literally not a technician. But I kind of go to the machines sometimes just to service them, and I talk to some people who are, because they're usually in the ATM area of places. So I just talk to people, and when they kind of see me, I usually take some coins and just do them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And for the ones who don't know what it is, we have a long conversation. And the machines have real-time tracking, so normally I can, after I talk to them, I get back to my computer, so I can see when they come back and put coins in. So I think the reception has been really great, actually. I'm actually very proud of this idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing and serving such a need. So do you think that with the way, I know there's still a lot of cash used in the Bahamas, but we're going towards less hard currency. Are you thinking about that in terms of the future of the company?
No. I don't know any country that is fully cashless. So I think I don't think we can fully get rid of cash. I truly don't. You need a hard backup, right? If you're going to go cashless, the internet goes down. We saw what just happened a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it was mayhem.
You need a backup. So I don't think that we are going to go completely cashless. You have pockets of cashlessness, right? The hotels and stuff like that. That's not really my clientele anyway. So no, I'm not really worried about that. I think that, cash needs to stay where it is just to be that backup. Now, I get why they got rid of the penny. It didn't make sense, right? It cost more than it was worth. So I get that. I think it was like 1 point something cents to make 1 penny, which that doesn't make sense. If you are literally printing money, it should not cost more to make the thing than. So I get the penny. The 5 cents, I can't see that going anytime soon. And the 10 cents is very common.
Going strong. Yeah. So what in all of your entrepreneurial journeys has been a surprising part of your growth, your maturity as a business owner?
Honestly, a surprising part has been the amount. Let me backtrack a little bit. The surprising part has actually been how much companies change in their own kind of growth. So I'll give you an example. We Change Up was never really supposed to be what it is currently. I thought this was just going to be kind of like a side hustle business where, you know, I got some coin machines out there. I go collect those coins. But no, it has morphed into something so much bigger than I would have ever thought of. Over the entire, even when we were first kind of starting, I didn't think it was going to be that big. I didn't think I was even going to be the managing director. I thought I was just going to kind of be one of the partners, one of the directors who shows up kind of on a board meeting. And it was the same thing with the boat mechanic business. What surprises me is how much, I guess, nurturing and time and effort and blood and sweat and tears go into creating these businesses. And even then, the idea that you have for them is very rarely what they actually become. So that's really surprised me. A lot of my businesses, I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to be just a millionaire on the beach chilling. Obviously, when you think of these businesses, that's what you want to do, right? I don't want to work. No one likes working. So I mean,
I like working.
But yeah, so I just didn't know that it was that much. You watch these documentaries on, you know, successful business owners, and they say, oh yeah, it's blood, sweat, and tears. It's working 90 hours a week. You don't get days off, this and this and this. I was like, I don't think that's true.
Won't be me.
Don't be me. They don't know what they're doing. And boy, that is, yeah, that has surprised me a lot.
Yeah. So I have a similar question, basically, like what sustains you through the hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears, especially when you hear these no's and you like to solve as yet unsolved problems. So you might be converting someone from a skeptic to an enthusiast.
So what sustains me is kind of talking with other people. One of my close friends has a kind of a entrepreneurial space called Shift the Culture. Travis Miller, I'm sure you know. And I never kind of was a part of it. I thought myself a little different. I was like, I don't want to do business that way. I kind of want to do my own thing. Obviously, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I hit 30. So you guys have fun over there. But I realized very recently, actually, you know, I started going to a lot of those. They have like a meetup and a pitch night. And I started going to them, and I started being in that space a little bit. And it's honestly seeing people come up with such cool ideas. I always think I have good ideas, but to see other people come up with ideas and me genuinely being like, oh, wow, I've never thought about that. That's actually a really cool idea. And then them coming to me and asking for advice. And I'm like, you need my advice? I was like, okay. So that really sustains me a little bit. I'm really enjoying being in that space.
Yeah.
And talking to other people who kind of who are on different levels, right? They could be kind of on your level. They could be way ahead of you. I've spoken to quite a few. And then they could be, trying to come up to your level, and speaking to them, and them genuinely wanting to learn from you, genuinely wanting to hear your experiences, stuff like this, right? Summer's stories is very similar to that, right? That kind of stuff really sustains me. I enjoy that more so than the work itself. It's very easy to get lost in the day-to-day work, right? So I think it's more important to, or at least allow yourself to step back every now and again and just remember why you are doing this. I do have to intentionally do that to myself sometimes, and just be like, it's very easy when you're just in it. Sometimes you just have to step back and or branch out and do, explore a different space. This Summer of Stories thing is something I've never done anything like this before. Right. I've never went to any of those Shift the Culture meetings until very recently. And I love it. It really is good. It's really nice to see stuff like this.
Yeah, community is so important. And I think when you are the pioneer, the person with the idea, and you know everything top to front, top to bottom, back to front, it's not the same as being an employee going to your job and then coming back. And so being able to join communities, or like Travis created communities for yourself in that space, the support is. There are so many stats about how important it is for growth and development.
Yeah.
So on that similar note of community, what kind of advice might you give to new entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are starting a thing that's never been done before, particularly if they're in the Bahamas?
Join a community, I would say. Surround yourself with people that are having similar plights, who may have found ways in. I don't know necessarily if I would have found it easier to do it, but it definitely wouldn't have been so isolating if I was more a part of a community, I'd say. There were times I felt pretty alone on that journey, by my own hand, of course. But I guess I was kind of one of those people who were like, well, if I tell someone this idea, someone's going to steal it. So I was super worried about that. But I actually have found that isn't really the case. In fact, especially people in that community want to see you succeed, right? They want to see someone from their kind of community do well. And you never know, that could be one of those places where you meet your potential partner. You never know about that. I have definitely met a few people who I'm going to do some collab work with in that community space. So I would say that's a really good place to start. Another thing is just don't be afraid to start, right? Try it. Try your idea out and see what happens, and talk to people about your idea. It's very, especially if you're the expert in it, it's very rare that someone's going to be like, well, I'm going to take that, because the amount of time it took you to learn that, people aren't going to invest that kind of time, or very rarely. It's a very rare chance that they would invest that kind of time to steal that idea. I do remember a long time ago, I was working in kind of like a summer job thing, and I created this program to track data. And someone did, and I pitched it to my boss, and she did take the idea. She took it and presented it as her own, and I was devastated. But what actually happened is, when push came to shove, she actually had no idea how to work the idea in a crisis. And, her superiors were like, well, I thought you made this. And she had to turn around and say, well, actually, James did this. And so she did not take the time to learn the idea. She just thought it was cool, pitched it as her own, and she wasn't able to actually do anything with it. So I do stress that if you're going to have an idea and you're going to start talking to people about it, be the expert in your idea, right? No one should know your idea better than you. They shouldn't. If they can take it, not really your idea yet. Right? You kind of just have some kind of idea.
That is so good. If someone can take it, it's not really your idea. Yeah, because I just thought of a conversation I had, I don't know, not that long ago. And it was about someone complaining that someone else had stolen their idea. And I was like, I don't know that I would say that that's what happened, because sometimes you have things happening concurrently, businesses happening concurrently. That's just competition, capitalism, life, right? And then that pushes people forward or whatever. That's just its own category. And then you have the whole thing where, can you hear me? I don't know. Gosh. Am I still live? This is weird. Hello?
Lost you for a sec. Yeah.
Okay. What was I saying? So sometimes you have just natural competition. So your idea hasn't been stolen. That's just what's happening in business. And then sometimes you have someone you had the same idea and they just took it in one direction and ran with it. And you maybe didn't put enough time into it. The sweat equity you were talking about. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort. So if someone's going to put in that effort and you don't, can you say that they stole it?
Well, do you know how many people it's probably been about 10 or 12 people that have come to me and said, I thought of that coin idea. I was like, I bet you have. I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Did you spend a year and a half searching for someone to make the machines, and then another year and a half working with people because we have a 10-cent coin that no one else who designed it?
Correct. And it's very rare that you're going to figure or create an idea that is completely
new. Yeah.
It's so rare. And I just want people to forget about that for a second, right? And just become that expert in that idea that you've created. And you'll find people come up to you and say, yeah, man, I definitely thought about that, right? I thought about that like 10 years ago. I was like, I'm sure you did. I bet you have.
Yeah. And you don't have to feel threatened. It's like, that's great. Well, here it is. Yeah. Now it exists. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Is there anything else that you want to say, either about We Change Up or business?
No. If you have any other questions, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. I do actually have one more. So we talked about what you would say to someone new, and now I'm wondering who inspires you. Who do you like to follow? Are there books that you read or podcasts that you listen to, or just a person?
If I'm being completely honest, I don't really have kind of a person that I follow. I like to have a broad spectrum of things. I mean, one of my kind of early people that inspired me was Richard Branson. Really liked the fact that, he created businesses that he had no expertise in, right? He was kind of like a magazine producer and then went to his board and said, I want to buy a 747. And, or I think he said, I want to buy like 6 of them. And they're like, well, no, you can 1. And if that works, then we'll talk about 2 maybe. But I like that Branson kind of, he just tries things. And now he's created such a brand that, whatever he touches is most likely going to do well. But early on, if you look at his early career, he just tried things. And I really love that about an entrepreneur. I guess the second early on was the creator of GoPro.
Okay.
I don't remember his name, but I watched a documentary on him that kind of really resonated with me. And it
Seriously, so bad.
Hey, Gabby.
Hi.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no worries. That's fine. So the creator of GoPro, he basically was just a guy who wanted to take cool pictures while surfing. That was basically it. And he's like, I want to just have a camera that's attached to my arm and take a picture in the wave, right? And he tried to find a manufacturer who would create this tiny camera, and nobody wanted to do it because it's like, well, cameras don't go in the water, that kind of thing. And now, there's GoPros on the International Space Station, right? When you think of kind of sporting photography,
GoPro.
It's GoPro, right?
It's like Google. It's the name of the you don't
Correct.
think underwater portable camera. You think GoPro.
Correct. And so I would say those two. I actually have one more, if we have time.
Yeah.
The creator of Spanx,
Sarah Blakely,
Blakely.
Yeah.
I like her.
I heard an interview with her. She's amazing.
Yeah, I actually took her masterclass. It was the only masterclass I ever did, but I just wanted to try it.
Yeah.
So I took it, and it was just to hear how she knew she had an idea and just finally got that right place, right time, and then kind of ran with it. And that's how, and she's a billionaire, right? So those three. So I guess I do have some that I follow.
Yeah. Well, it's always great to know just who inspires you and why. I think that even adds insights into how you operate. Like the inventor of GoPro, of course he's inspiring to you because he's doing something that's never been done and people are telling him no.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
he's like, oh, well, how do I get it done?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having this chat. I appreciate you coming and sharing all your insights with us.
Oh, good.
If someone wanted to dump coins, if they're in the Bahamas, where can they find
so we have 5 locations with a 6th on the way. One at Smitty's Pharmacy, Sandyport. One at the Omni in.
Why is my internet doing this?
Hey, gotta get Starlink.
Is that anyway? We can talk about that after I hit end.
Yeah, I'll be quick. It's one at Carmichael, the Omni in there. One at Rubis East Street, Soldier Road. One at Omni in the mall at Marathon. One at Quality Home Center on Prince Charles. And then we're about to get one at Solomon's Yamacraw.
Okay, amazing. And then the website is wechangeup.net.
Yep.
And James isn't really super active on social media.
I'm really not.
So there's no way to there's nothing to really follow. But
there is, I think we are We Change Up 242 on.
You personally, if they want to make you their Richard Branson, good luck.
Oh. Yeah, I don't post business stuff for some reason.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. I'm terrible at marketing, though. That's not my strong suit.
It's not your thing.
No.
You have the other things.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So before we get kicked out again, thank you everyone for joining us. This has been another amazing interview for the Summer of Stories. Definitely, if you're in the Bahamas, check out We Change Up's kiosks. And if you are not in the Bahamas, you know where you can take your coins if you ever come visit. I'm, again, your host, Gabrielle Gwyneth. I will be back next week with another guest to tell us about their adventurous entrepreneurial spirit. And I'll see you next time. Ciao for now.